Coke.
Okay, why do you choose Coke?
The brand, it's a visual thing.
It's a visual thing for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's stronger too.
Stronger as
Stronger
in
beverage, taste
flavor?
wise.
Okay. Johnny, what about you? Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Why do you choose Coke?
I like the taste better than Pepsi. Pepsi is sweeter than Coke, and I like the acid of the Coke.
Okay. Me personally, I like Coca-Cola also. But I like Coca-Cola for a slightly different reason. I like Coca-Cola because of the consistency. Not consistency in the marketing, because I think that the majority of their marketing ads are always good, but more because of the consistency of the actual product. Have you ever been to a store and you got a Pepsi and it was flat?
Mm-hmm.
All the time. That's why I don't drink it.
But sometimes when you go to a fast food restaurant, for example, and then you get out the fountain machine, it's more fresh, right?
It depends. Yeah.
That depends also.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see, that's the difference right there. When you get a Coca-Cola, I've been to at least 20 countries.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to countless cities in said countries. When I go to different places, the Coke is always the same, no matter what. Some variations of Coke are slightly different depending on the country that you go to. However, you will always be able to know a Coke is a Coke is a Coke. Additionally, there's something about this word Coca-Cola that most people don't know. Do you know what that is?
Cocoa.
Cocoa? No, I don't get it. The thing is, regardless of where you go in the world, this is the one word in the entire world that everyone will understand. Did you know that? If you go to mainland China, and no one speaks English, if you go to a restaurant and say Coca-Cola, they'll understand you.
It's like that with pizza too.
But the thing is, in some countries, the word pizza is not pizza. That's the difference. Coca-Cola, no matter what country you go to, Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola. I'm going to show you a slightly different example a bit later in the lecture. So if we're talking about your brand identity, there are a few things that you need to understand. What is needed to build a brand? Do you have any idea?
Consistency.
Anything else?
I mean, you could probably go on forever and ever. Like,
okay, so within this, you actually have to have your brand elements. This is a formal term. Your brand elements, okay? Now, your brand name is not enough for your brand elements. The more meaningful the brand name is, the harder for you to be able to translate it into other cultures. Do you understand what that means?
mm-hmm. The simple is better.
Simple is better, exactly. I have lived in Singapore for a few years now, and there is a famous brand there called Yakun. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Do you know what that means?
No.
Exactly. Because it's something that is not translatable across cultures. Okay? It is generally good for you to have multiple brand elements, such as your brand name, your URL, your logos and your symbols, your characters, slogans, jingles, your packaging, your fonts or typeface. This is actually something that's extremely important when you think about brands like Coca-Cola, for example. Your slogans, having scents, textures, or tastes. These things are all generally specified for each individual brand. Think of Apple. We know that brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think of Apple, the word automatically makes people think of friendly, warm, or trendy. It is reinforced visually with their logo, which is easily transferable globally, and it crosses cultural boundaries. Okay? It also developed the Think Different slogan to be able to associate it with its own brand identity. Now the difference is when people talk about computers, they say, "Oh, do you have a Mac or a PC?" Right? They'll ask you that question. Mac is only Apple. Only. That's the only company that has Mac. Everybody else in the big sea of computers is PC. Whether it's a Dell, whether it's an HP, whether it's an Lenovo, whether it's any other brand that you can think of. An Acer, for example. Now what I'm talking about with Apple's brand is Apple is a very well-known word. No matter what culture you go to, what country you go to, it's always going to be the same. An apple is an apple. You have manzana, ringo, seb, pom, mela, apple or apple or apple. No matter what country you're in or what language you are speaking in, an apple is still an apple. That's the reason why when they translated this into a logo and into a brand, it was easy for people to be able to identify. It was a very easy word. However, like I was explaining with the example of Yakun, you don't know what Yakun is. Do you know what Kaya is?
No.
What?
Kaya. Kaya is coconut. That's what the word means. But you don't know what that means.
Right.
And it's not something that most people are familiar with, even if they have a picture of it. Because if you have a logo of a coconut, it just looks like a round ball. It's not necessarily truly identifiable across cultures. And that's the big differentiation.
So that refers to Apple in what sense?
It refers to Apple, that Apple is more universally translatable. If you go to China, apples look like this. If you're in the United States, apples still look like this. If you're in South America, apples still look like this. That's why they chose that name. It was something that was easy for people to recognize. It was easy for people to be able to say. And that's why it's the #1 brand in the entire world as far as finances go. With your brand name is extremely important. It often captures the central theme or key associations for the product. It's not always, but oftentimes it does. It's a shorthand means of communication for the brand. An advertisement may last for 30 seconds or even 1 minute, but your customers notice your brand name first and more often, and it activates a muscle memory within just a few seconds. If I were to say, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, what is that?
I'm loving it.
For whose
McDonald's.
brand? McDonald's. Why? Because we have been conditioned to think that association is for McDonald's because of their branding. McDonald's is a very big industry or a very big company that has been extremely successful at using every single one of the brand elements. Your URL. Your URL stands for a Uniform Resource Locator. People often think of this as being your domain name. This